Close your eyes for a second. Imagine the exact moment your heart stops. No tunnel. No angels. No judgment day. Just a gentle pop. And suddenly you're barefoot, standing in grass so green it almost hurts to look at. The air smells like childhood summers you can't quite remember. A parrot the color of molten lava lands on your shoulder, laughs in your ear, and drops a warm gift in your hand. You laugh too, because it feels more real than anything you ever touched while alive. That place has a name. Robert Monroe called it the Park. And it was built by people exactly like you and me. You're about to hear the single most detailed, first-hand map of the immediate afterlife ever recorded. Not from religion, not from near-death guesses, but from a man who went there repeatedly while his body slept in Virginia, took notes, came back, and spent the rest of his life trying to wake the rest of us up. This is Robert Monroe's final journey, and the chapter that changed him forever. By the time he wrote Ultimate Journey, Monroe was in his 70s. He knew the clock was ticking, so he did something deeply practical. He went looking for death insurance. He wanted to know, without dogma, without hope, without fear, where his friends had actually gone after they died. He started with the people he'd already visited in out-of-body states years earlier. First, his father. After a brutal year-long stroke that left him trapped in a broken body, his dad passed. Weeks later, Monroe left his body, flew into the non-physical, and found his father in a hand-built log cabin on a cliff overlooking an ocean that never existed on any Earth map. The old man was suntanned, smiling, and teaching himself how to sculpt perfect rolling waves, except the first tries came out as yellow squares. They laughed about it together like kids. Next, his engineer friend Charlie, found in a quiet beach house with sand you could feel between your toes and gulls that answered when you spoke to them. Then, Agnew, the pilot who died in a fiery crash, discovered inside a massive hangar, sleeves rolled up, designing a plane that could fly without wings. And Dick, his old doctor friend from New York, looking 30 years younger, deep in conversation with other physicians in a sunlit office that smelled faintly of iodine and coffee. None of them were in a heaven dictated by any religion. No pearly gates, no fire, no reincarnation wheels spinning them back instantly. They had simply built their own rest stops, and every single one of those places was more vivid than physical reality. Years later, Monroe went back to check on them. What he found chilled him. Charlie's beach was still there, but the waves were frozen mid-crash. The sun hung motionless. No breeze. No birds. The entire scene looked like a photograph abandoned by its photographer. His father's cabin, empty. The walls still felt like real cedar when he touched them, but the hearth was cold, the ocean outside painted on glass. These weren't hallucinations. They were living, conscious creations. And when the creator moved on, the creation went into stasis, waiting, just in case the soul ever wanted to return. Monroe suddenly understood. We don't just survive death, we become architects. Still searching, he drifted into what looked like a normal doctor's waiting room. Stacked magazines, fake plants, fluorescent lights. Two men in business suits were chatting by a coffee machine. When they saw Monroe, their jaws dropped. "You've still got a body," one of them whispered, reaching out to shake Monroe's suddenly solid hand like he was meeting a celebrity. "We've heard stories about people like you, but you're the first one we've actually met." They explained, this entire wing was a decompression chamber for doctors, surgeons, nurses, people who spent their lives fighting death and couldn't switch off the adrenaline the moment they died. So other souls who'd been through it before built a perfect replica of a clinic, complete with fake National Geographics from 1987, just to give the newly dead medics something familiar to hold on to while the shock wore off. One of the men pointed down a wooded path outside the window. "Looking for the park? Keep walking. Can't miss it." The path went through trees Monroe had never seen on Earth, leaves shimmering within a light, flowers that hummed in chords. He walked barefoot because shoes felt ridiculous here. Every step pressed living grass against his skin. He plucked a leaf, tasted it maple syrup and childhood all at once. A flock of birds flew overhead in perfect helix formation. Some species extinct, some species that never existed until a happy soul dreamed them up last week. Then the trees parted, and there it was. An endless rolling garden under a golden sun that never burned. Fountains of liquid diamond. Streams that sang. Benches placed exactly where tired souls would need them. Thousands of people strolling, laughing, hugging, planning. Every single one radiating soft light. This was the park. Not a belief. Not metaphor. A physica placine on physics created thousands of years ago by an ancient human civilization that had already mastered consciousness. They left it behind like open source software for every soul who ever lived. No priests, no dogma, no membership card. Just show up, calm down, and decide what you want to do with eternity. A woman rose from the nearest bench, medium height, ageless eyes, containing every ethnicity that ever walked the planet. She smiled like she'd been waiting centuries for this exact moment. At last, Ashane, she said. That was the name his soul wore 100,000 years before English existed. She took his hand, real skin, real warmth, and sat him down. You may bring people here, she said, reading his thoughts before he spoke them. Newly dead, who are lost, confused, terrified. Bring them. We'll take care of the rest, and teach the living how to find us while they're still breathing, because fear of death is the only chain left holding humanity back. Monroe asked the question that had haunted him across 3 books. Is all of this just another belief system? She laughed. A sound like wind chimes made of starlight. Touch the grass. Taste the air. Belief systems dissolve when you poke them. This place does not. He looked around and finally understood the missing piece his higher self had kept nudging him toward. Humans are not merely made in the image of a creator. We are creators, infants playing with infinite Lego. The birds, the trees, the oceanside cabins, the doctor's office, the parrot poop, every atom of it built at the speed of thought by minds unshackled from meat and time. She continued. Most souls who leave the park either return to Earth for another round, merge back into their total self, what you call the Iether, or graduate outward to realities we can't even pronounce yet. A few stay and become greeters, like us. The only rule is one. Never impose your will on another. Everything else is allowed. Monroe felt a familiar tug, the silver cord pulling him back to a sleeping body in Virginia. Before they left, the woman stood, placed both hands on his shoulders, and spoke one word from a language 100,000 years dead. Tanazan. He woke up crying, not from sadness, but from relief. That chapter was the last major journey Monroe ever published. Everything after it. The Monroe Institute, the Hemisync technology, the Lifeline program that trains people to retrieve stuck souls. All of it was born from that single conversation on a park bench that ISNT up there. But one subtle frequency layer out, wrapped around Earth like an invisible garden. He realized the afterlife isn't a distant dimension. It's the next room, and the door has never been locked. Thousands of people, using nothing more than headphones and guided sound patterns, have followed Monroe's maps and verified the same landmarks. The frozen beach houses, the doctor's lounge, the glowing trees, the woman with ancient eyes. Some have even brought back lost loved ones who are wandering in belief system limbo, delivered them to the park, and watched them light up with recognition the moment they arrived. So here is the only question that matters tonight. If you truly knew, that the second you drop this body you step into a place more beautiful, more creative, and more you than anything you've ever experienced here, would death still feel like an ending? Or would it start feeling like graduation day? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one, and if this flipped a switch inside you, do 3 things. Like, so the algorithm shows this. 2 more sleeping souls. Subscribe, and hit the bell. Because next we're going inside the restricted programs at the Monroe Institute, where they teach civilians to do exactly what Monroe did and share this with one person who's terrified of dying. Because fear is the only real death, and tonight we just killed it. Until we meet again, on this side or the next, stay curious, stay fearless, and keep your shoes off. The grass feels better that way. Tanasun explores. No mistake.